Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on this Tuesday on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube. And as I stated the other day, the only time we were going to be discussing the Jets or the Giants the rest of the way is when they made off the field news. They continue to do that. They did it yesterday. The Giants did. Today, it's the Jets' turn with something that should not come as a surprise. We've known for a while that the GM was no longer functioning as a general manager. Ever since the day Salah was fired, and Woody Johnson did not consult his general manager about the firing, he knew the handwriting was on the wall. I mean, his record even worse than Salah's. Um, Obviously, some good things, some good selections, some terrible selections. A lot of GMs can say the same thing, but the body of work just not there. And, no winning seasons, nothing to talk about. And you knew the end was near. This is not a big earth shattering move today. All it is another move in the same direction. The one thing that I continue to differ with most of the conventional wisdom on is the idea that they have to jettison Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they have to. I made that pretty clear. Now, a couple of things have to happen. He no longer gets to rule the roost. That's over with. Take away his power. If he wants to stay, he's a player. He's a regular employee. That's it. He's not making any coaching decisions. He's not making any personnel decisions. He has no power that any other player has. He's a quarterback. Act like a quarterback. He's a veteran quarterback. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's a future Hall of Fame quarterback. He's a former iconic quarterback. He's not that quarterback anymore. We know that. But the idea that he is just completely shot is wrong if the offensive line can function in a formidable way and the play calling makes sense. Remember, you're putting playmakers around him. Adams, Hall, Wilson. These are playmakers. They need a third receiver. The secondary back is a guy you can utilize, although he's been very uh, ill, very ill fitting this year in what he's done, despite he has some ability. But the offensive line has to be better. And then the coaching on both sides of the ball has to be so much better. This team, this quarterback, this offense the results would look so much different if there was even solid, no less spectacular coaching. The coaching has been so poor. The preparation, the leadership, the design, the changes during the game, the subtle nuances of things that have to be dealt with have been so poor and so badly handled that you would be amazed at how quickly the product would change, even with them being completely tied and restrained by such poor coaching. They've lost 4 games that they easily, with the bounce of a ball, could have won. I can even put another in there. I can make it 5 games right now that could have been won without any effort at all. A made field goal, a missed penalty, a bad decision in the red zone, a bad read defensively. I mean, they've lost to 2 bad teams. Well, Colts aren't a bad team. I shouldn't say that, but they lost to 2 struggling quarterbacks. You had a rookie quarterback and his backup in Brissett. They both played in that game, and they gave up a touchdown late in the game to lose. And then obviously Richardson came down the field twice and beat them in the fourth quarter after not being able to make a play before that and being benched for 2 weeks. So we've seen the collapse. We've seen how bad the preparation has been after long layoffs or, more than the conventional rest. We've seen how poorly the game planning has been, how awful the adjustments have been, or the non-adjustments. They refuse to adjust. They just say, "This is the way we play defense. We just have to get back to play our defense." No. First of all, you don't have the same personnel. Secondly, they've long ago figured out your defense. You have to make changes. That's how this works. But the one thing I differ on, listen, you're going to have a whole new front office. You're going to have a whole new coaching staff. If this makes any sense. If you don't have that, then just, give up. Figuring you're going to have all that. All I'm saying is for next year, for 1 year, I'm not telling you not to draft a quarterback on the first round if you like somebody, or the second round, or the third round, or wherever you find a quarterback that is to your liking to develop. Put him on the bench behind. You don't want to play him in the first year anyway. Put him on the bench. Let him learn behind Aaron Rodgers. Let him learn in the room with Aaron Rodgers. How could you find a better teacher if he's in the mood to teach than him? So, and let him play until he shows you he can't play anymore. Now, like I said, if you look at the numbers, they're not spectacular, but they're right in the middle of the league. He's got 17 touchdowns. He's got 7 interceptions. Mahomes has got fewer touchdown passes and more interceptions. Cousins has got the same amount of touchdown passes and more interceptions. I can go down the list. There are a couple of quarterbacks having better years, like Burrow, but he should have much better numbers than he has. The interceptions should be lower. The TD numbers should be higher. They've been dysfunctional in the red zone. I think they're 24th in the league in red zone efficiency. That's because they can't run the ball, and he doesn't have the legs to make the plays in the red zone. By the time, you have to have one or the other. You have to have a very strong running game, including a running quarterback, or you need that mobile quarterback who can buy time and move around and shift around until you can get a throw and get an open spot in the end zone to make a play. It's one of two. Some teams fit both, and that's why they're really good in the red zone. Other teams don't, and that's why they're really bad in the red zone. So, but I do not think he has. So I don't go with the washed up quarterback aspect of it. I go with everything else. And hey, now it's about going out. And listen, I don't separate it here. Like, I don't look at this like I have to find someone to run my franchise and let him pick the coach. I don't buy that. I can separate personnel and coaching. I can bring in a coaching staff and then bring in a personnel department. This is a team that doesn't have to be rebuilt right this second. So I can do that this way. I don't have to have a guy to build this team from the bottom up. There is a lot of talent on this team. This team needs to plug in pieces that fit, but it needs superior coaching. And then you can get the personnel guy. See, the Jets never know which team to go to extract the guy from. 2 or 3 teams that the right people know where to go to get the personnel guy who's good. Why do you think people keep taking guys out of the Rams? Why do you think they keep taking assistants out of the Rams? Because it works. Because the coaching there is very, very strong. You could see it again this year with how he kept that team alive until he got some players back. And now he's right in the hunt as San Francisco has struggled. And give Arizona credit because they've played actually a lot better than better than I think everybody thought they would this year. Coaching makes an extraordinary difference. And you saw how coaching could completely And that goes with dysfunctional ownership, coaching and dysfunctional ownership. I'll put it right in the same. It's all in the same thing. It's all in the front office. So when you have Woody who says, "I got to make the change here," and maybe it was Rogers pushing for Salah to go. I don't know if it was or it wasn't. I'm sure it was part of it. Salah didn't have a leg to stand on. He did a terrible job. If you watch Salah, you cannot make him a victim here. He was a terrible head coach. Not a bad guy, not a bad coordinator. The defense has missed him, but he was a terrible head coach. This guy is not a better head coach, and he can't even function without Salah on the defense. So the defense has taken a big step backwards, and it's been hurt by some injuries, but the defense has been taking a big step backwards. And now you've spread a very weak staff out way too thin, which is what Woody should have known when he looked at it. But that's Woody being completely dysfunctional and just bad at what he does. Woody just, you see, you never know who he's listening to, but he's listening to the wrong people. That's all there is to it. I'm sure he's listening to somebody, but whoever it is, it's the wrong person. Because you would never have done what he did with the staff. If they had made the change when they made the change with Salah, and they had brought an offensive coordinator into that room and a head coach into that room, they would be a playoff team today. I firmly believe that. If they had made the right moves. Because these games haven't been lost because they couldn't play or compete. They've been lost by just little stupid mistakes at the wrong time and bad preparation and just so many different things that wear down on this team day after day after day, including leadership. I mean, you saw Adams as soon as he came here saying, "What's going on with this team?" Now, Rodgers evidently is comfortable in his surroundings, which is why he would stick up for Albrecht. But Rodgers doesn't get to make the Rodgers. What he's lost here in my world, what he's lost here is the right to have any excessive power. If he wants to stay, and if he doesn't want to stay, fine, go. Don't let the door hit you. I'm not gonna lose any sleep if you leave. But if you want to stay, I'm willing to work with you for one more year. But you work on our terms now. You have no say in personnel. You have no say in coaching. You are a player, and that's it. You run the offense. You are a leader, no question, but you are no longer running the franchise. You showed you have no ability to do that. So you're out as far as that's concerned. And any coach worth a damn would take that away from him immediately because he's only in this for the short term anyway. The coach you are bringing in, you're hopefully bringing in for the long term. But his first year can be a year where they can go for it before they develop the next quarterback. This does not have to be scraped. They are not starting from scratch. This idea that the Jets are starting from scratch is ridiculous. There's too much talent there for them to be starting from scratch. They don't have to start from scratch. We can go over what their nucleus will be next year. They don't have to start from scratch. But they have to have not a decent level of coaching. It's about time they get a good level of coaching again. They haven't had one in a long time. And there are ways to do this. There are people available. Listen, and Belichick's not coming into that situation. He first of all test the Jets. I'm telling you. And I don't think he's going to the Giants. I told you. I think he's going to the Cowboys or Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the big blow it up plan. And the Cowboys are take a swing with the court. Now remember, the Cowboys, to be fair, listen, they're awful right now. And they were probably headed to a lesser season this year. And they completely ignored the running game. But their defense has been decimated, completely decimated. You can't, it's not even fair. They don't have any of those guys now. I mean, their playmakers are all either not, you know, extending effort because they know there's no reason to, or they're already done for the season. I mean, they are just completely decimated by injury. They're not even putting a real product on the field. Houston was bad last night. Houston played a bad game, tried to keep the Cowboys in the game, and couldn't keep the Cowboys in the game. The Cowboys made enough mistakes to make sure that Houston blew the game open, including Houston opening the game with an 80-yard touchdown play, which they obviously worked on, you know, for a couple of days, that it was going to be their first play, that this was the whole deal. And what happens? Tunsil's downfield. Why? And you negate an 80-yard touchdown on the first play of the game. Nico Collins. It was an 80-yard touchdown play. Call back because Tunsil's downfield for no reason. That's the kind of stuff that Houston's been doing week after week. And Houston was not good in the second half last night. The ball was they got a gift touchdown that broke the game open. And Dallas went on fourth down. Dallas faked a punt, which was ridiculous. And they went on fourth down, which was ridiculous. And they have no running game. And, right now they're just awful. I was not impressed with Houston, and I'm not impressed with Stroud right now. Stroud is really lost a lot of the swagger and confidence that he had last year. He has lost. Right now, I don't consider them a threat in any way from what I've seen. They'll make the playoffs, but if they make the playoffs, they will be gone quickly, the way they're playing. I wanted to mention one other thing because I don't consider the Jet news today I mean, I know it's going to get headlines, but I don't consider it any amazing, earth-shattering news. I detest the NBA Cup. I think it is one of the biggest jokes I've seen in a long time. And it just shows you how far the NBA regular season has been devalued. And the NBA has a real problem about about how they present their regular season and how their players approach the regular season, how the teams approach the regular season, how they value the regular season, and it just shows. And this thing is such. I mean, how you try to sell it, and the poor announcers who have to get in there and sell this thing, and color on the court is not going to do it. But tonight, and this isn't the NBA Cup. Tonight, you actually have a game that's interesting because, and maybe it's me because first of all, I've always liked I know the coaches, the Cavs, and I've always liked them a lot. And he's a really good coach. And I thought it was a really good fit for him. I took them as an over this year. And who takes Cleveland as an over? But I took them as an over in the NBA this year. I took Cleveland over 48.5. And I like them. I like Oklahoma City, who have already had some injuries, but I think they'll still get over 57, which is a high number. And then I took Utah under 28.5. But Cleveland opens with 15 wins. Who would have thought that? All right. They've won in some good places like New York. They go into Boston tonight. So here are the Celtics, and you don't get many confrontations like this in the regular season where Boston really wants to beat a team that's opened the season 15-0. And the Cavs tonight are 5.5-point underdogs in Boston at 15-0. And they've had a couple of games where they had to come back with furious rallies in the fourth quarter to keep this thing alive. They are 15-0, which is a substantial. I mean, that's an all-time way to open the season. 15 games anytime is a big deal, but 15-0 to open the season. That game tonight in Boston, to me, is fascinating. Forget NBA Cup or this division or any of that garbage. You're telling me you got guys on the Celtics and the Cavaliers who are worried about making $500,000 or getting a shiny trophy? I mean, come on. Really? You want to sell it to some teams that have a bunch of D-leaguers on their team, fine. They want the $500,000. Otherwise, give me a break. And those teams can't win the thing. The whole presentation of that thing is so schlocky and so meaningless. It just shows you how devalued their regular season is. But tonight you have a game that's worth paying attention to. I at least will find that fascinating as Cleveland goes in there 15-0 and tries to see if they can win in a very tough place where Boston, first of all, thinks we're better than the Cavs, and they might be better than the Cavs. They very well might be. I'm talking about right now. We're talking about overall. We expect the Celtics to be a better team than the Cavs, but the Cavs are making a stand here at 15-0 early and saying, "Hey, we want to be considered serious contenders." If you look historically, teams that open the season 15-0 have a habit of going to the finals. But it's just interesting to watch, and it will be interesting to watch this evening. So it's one of the few times where I'd actually have a NBA game where I really want to see it this evening. So Cavs getting 5.5 points as a 15-0 team against the Celtics, who are, I think, have 3 losses. I don't pay much attention to the records right now, other than them being 15-0. But I think the Cavs are like 11-2. I think 11-3. So that's an unusual situation. I think that Buffalo win was important for Buffalo far more than it was. I think first of all, I think it's a blessing for Kansas City to have a loss. I think trying to go undefeated, and they had a schedule where they could have actually made a run at going undefeated. I think it wears your team down so much that it's just not worth it when the goal is to get to the Super Bowl. It's just not worth it to be undefeated. So just have that go away, because once you get into double digits, it really starts to wear on your team. And I watched New England closely, and they wore down as much as anything else. They wore down. Their performances were getting worse. Now, they were still winning, but they were lessening in their performances each week as they were getting closer to the Super Bowl, because they were exhausted. It was a lot of pressure, and I think it's something that offers diminishing returns, and it's very hard to do. So I just don't think it's worth it. I think this is the best thing that could have happened to Kansas City. They're still going to win the division by a mile. Now, could they lose best record? I guess they could. You know, they have 2 losses. They have 1 loss. They have a tiebreaker. They could. I don't think it really matters if Buffalo and Kansas City or Baltimore and Kansas City play in the AFC title game. I don't think it matters where it is. It could be freezing in Kansas City. It could be freezing in Buffalo. I don't think it matters where it is. I mean, it matters if one building is going to offer you a dome and you're a warm weather team. You don't want to play in frigid weather, but if you're a team that can play in frigid weather, and both these teams can, then it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters where they play. The better team will win. So I think we've seen in recent years that home field doesn't mean as much. And I think it was a big lift for Buffalo. I still don't think. You see, the question I think everyone's asking now in the AFC is, are we ready to elevate Pittsburgh to where we thought Baltimore is? And Baltimore has to pick the defense up. We've said it all along. Where Baltimore is, where Buffalo is. Are you ready to take Pittsburgh and put them on that level where they could win it? I'm not sure yet. Not sure yet. They clearly have a passing element with Wilson. It's worked well. It gives them a comeback ability they haven't had in the past. They still will win by hitting hard and running the ball and playing good defense and having a pass rush and playing good special teams. We know that. On the other side, I don't often say this, but right now, I don't think there's a team within 10 points of the Lions. I don't think there's anybody that can line up anywhere in the NFC right now and not get pulverized by the Lions, because the Lions behind that offensive line, which is the best offensive line in the sport. Not only that, they have the best center, they have the best offensive lineman. Sewell is the best offensive lineman in the league. They have the best center in the league. They have the best offensive line in the league. Behind that, they have incredible speed, incredible skill. The quarterback's playing terrifically well. They are bold in how they attack with their offense. They have game-breaking speed. They have a great 1-2 punch that is a perfectly blended 1-2 punch at running back. They start with Montgomery and they whack it, and then they bring Gibbs in, and he goes through any defense that's tired and just all of a sudden starts breaking 50-yard runs, or catches the ball and goes 50 yards. He's an incredibly explosive. They have incredibly explosive players. They have big-time wide receivers. They got a really good tight end in Laporta. They are loaded on offense. I think they are unstoppable. I think anybody would have to score 30 to beat them. I think they're going to score 30 on anybody they play on the way to the Super Bowl, and I think they will be in the Super Bowl. And right now, barring some serious injuries, and the worst injuries they could face are obviously quarterback or on that offensive line, because they have plenty of wide receivers. They have two great running backs. To me, they're not great defensively. You can throw the ball on them. They lost a big-time pass rusher. They made a trade, obviously, to get stronger. They are getting better in the secondary, but they're not great. You can throw the ball on them. But I think right now, I can see Kansas City getting picked off. I also can see them getting there. I think Detroit's going. I don't see anybody in the NFC right now that's even. I don't see anybody in the NFC right now that's even within a touchdown. And if the game's in Detroit, I don't think anybody's within 10 points of them right now. And the game's going to be in Detroit, because they're going to keep pulverizing everybody. They're not going to keep winning these games. They're going to keep pulverizing these people, because they can put up 40 every single. They threw 4 picks in Houston and came back and won the game in the second half. I mean, that's unbelievable to do that. And forget what they did to Jacksonville. That's a mismatch. But they can put up 500 yards on anybody. They are lethal right now, because you have incredible speed and dynamic play behind a great offensive line and a bold coach who's a leader, and they want this in the worst way, and they are steamrolling this league right now. I mean, just look, week in, week out, steamrolling this league. Minnesota's got a good record. Green Bay's a pretty good team. They're not in the same league with the Lions right now. We'll see you later.